have you ever really stopped to think about that word, creation? I mean, we use it all the time, right? But what if I told you that in our modern world, the original deep meaning of that idea has kind of become hidden, almost concealed from us? It's an idea that, according to the theologian Joseph Ratzinger, we've basically forgotten how to think about. And that, it turns out, has some pretty huge consequences for, well, everything.
So how in the world did we get here? Well, that's what we're going to unpack. Here's our roadmap. First, we're going to look at what this crisis of creation actually is. Then we'll hit rewind and trace the problem back to its roots in the Enlightenment. From there, we'll see how the idea of God sort of transformed into an abstract concept. After that, we'll explore a really powerful counter-narrative, the idea of creation as a loving word. And finally, we'll tie it all together and ask, why does any of this, our very beginning, still matters so much today?
All right, so first up, the crisis itself. The whole argument we're digging into here is that this foundational concept, creation, is going through a concealment. It's like it's fading from our collective consciousness, and it's left this massive void in how we make sense of ourselves and the world around us.
And that brings us to the absolute core question of this whole explainer. What actually happens when a society forgets how to think about creation? And look, this isn't just some dusty old philosophical debate. The answer to this question quietly shapes how you and I see reality, what we think freedom is, and maybe even what we think our purpose is.
Now, this whole concealment thing didn't just happen overnight. It kind of unfolded across three different fronts. First, you've got the scientific angle, where nature was reduced to just an object for us to study, stripped of any deeper meaning. Then, this weird metaphysical resentment started to build, where humanity itself was seen as a kind of disease on the planet. And believe it or not, even theology sometimes played a part, by painting divine grace as something that cancels out nature instead of completing it.
So where did this all kick off? Well, to find the intellectual roots of this whole situation, we've got to go back in time, back to the 18th century Enlightenment, a period that totally rewired Western thought.
The German term for this was Aufklärung, and it was this incredibly powerful and, in a lot of ways, very liberating movement. The main idea was super simple but revolutionary. Human reason, not some ancient tradition or divine revelation, should be the ultimate source of authority. This one idea set the stage for a massive, massive intellectual shift.
You know, the whole vibe of the era was captured perfectly by the philosopher Immanuel Kant in his famous challenge, Sapere Aude, which means dared to know. It was this amazing call for intellectual independence, telling people, hey, think for yourselves. But this new heroic focus on human reason had an unintended side effect. It started to push the whole idea of a creator and our dependence on one off to the side.
Okay, so if Kant put human reason at the very center of everything, the next big philosophical shift took that idea and just sprinted with it. The concept of God started to change from a personal creator into more of an abstract, unfolding idea within human history itself.
And this right here is a really crucial pivot. Think of it like this. For the philosopher Hegel, God wasn't so much a being as it was an abstract spirit or idea that was slowly figuring itself out through history. Then along comes Karl Marx. He takes Hegel's very abstract system and plants it firmly in the real world. For Marx, progress wasn't about some idea unfolding, it was about praxis, real-world concrete action and labor. In this new picture, creation isn't a gift you receive from a god, it's what humanity builds for itself. And all of a sudden, being dependent on a creator wasn't just seen as unnecessary, it was seen as the enemy of real human freedom.
Okay, so after tracing that whole path of concealment, let's pivot and look at the counter-argument. To try and reclaim the meaning of creation, Ratzinger says we need to look at two ancient and totally competing stories about where the world came from. The contrast between them is, well, it's stark, and it really reveals everything.
And at the absolute heart of this counter-narrative is one powerful concept, logos. It's a Greek term, and it means word, or reason, or plan. It's this idea that reality isn't just some chaotic accident, but that it's grounded in a divine, rational intelligence.
Now check out this first vision of creation. It's from the ancient Babylonian myth. Here, the world is born out of a violent cosmic battle. The sky and the earth are literally made from the dead body of a dragon that was killed. In a story like this, the universe is fundamentally chaotic, and humanity itself has something, as the text says, rebellious, demonic, and evil baked into its very origins.
But in total contrast to that vision of chaos, you have the Genesis account. Here, creation is not some byproduct of violence. It's a deliberate act of God's logos, his divine reason and word. The universe is literally spoken into being. This story gives us a world that's founded on freedom and love, a reality that is fundamentally good, ordered, and makes sense.
So let's bring this all home. This is not just an ancient history lesson, right? These two competing stories about where we came from, one of chaos, one of reason, they set up two profoundly different ways of seeing ourselves and our place in the entire universe.
See, when you boil it all down, the story we tell about our beginning ends up shaping everything that follows. It forces us to ask these huge questions. Is real freedom found in radical self-sufficiency and making it on our own? Or is it found in accepting our existence as a gift? Is the universe we live in just a meaningless, violent accident, or is it grounded in reason? And can we save ourselves with our own knowledge, or do we need something more, like grace? These aren't just historical questions. They cut right to the heart of what it means to be a person living in the modern world.
And that leaves us with one final, big thought to chew on. In our modern quest for freedom, in building this story of ourselves as either a cosmic accident or the heroes of our own self-creation, have we actually gained more freedom? Or have we in the process accidentally concealed something absolutely essential about ourselves? The idea that we aren't a mistake, but a product of a loving, rational word? Something to think about.